Hey guys, Tony, KD8RTT. Today's video is going to be about the Elecraft KX2. I've had this radio now for a few months. I got it just about when it came out, and I've been able to use it a fair bit, and I thought it'd be a good time to kind of comment on what I think of it. Kind of have a list of points I want to go over that are, I guess, for the most part, are kind of the negatives of this radio. So, keep that in mind, but overall I do like it. And, I'll touch on some points I really like about it also. But I kind of try to be really critical of it. From what I've seen, a lot of people have given this really high praise, and I think it is a great radio. But I think there are some negatives to it, and they aren't pointed out that much. So I thought this would be a good video, to be fairly critical of it. So if it seems like it's a little, that direction, that's why. But that said, it is a very solid radio, and, well, I'll get into my experiences with it. So, starting off with the Enclosure. If you've used the KX3, this is very similar. It's smaller, obviously, same kind of construction, and, very solid. Kind of made out of metal. They kind of do a folded metal design with screwing together some end caps, and that, reasonable quality. I don't have any concerns about the Enclosure itself breaking or anything. My biggest complaint with the Enclosure, actually, the Enclosure itself, I should say, is there's a lot of holes, with access to the inside. For instance, on the front panel, there's a couple kind of where the metal creased. There's openings that are for like the optional key you can get. They don't give you a cover for that. There's another one on top, similar idea. The speaker, it's in the back, that's open. For a field radio, I'd kind of like to see it closed up a little more. I wouldn't expect, mil-spec dust-proof or water-resistant or anything like that, but there are at least some obvious places I think they could have either included a cover or somehow managed to cover up by design. Just keeping that in mind, just keep stuff out of it. And, that kind of bleeds over into this LCD cover, which I have a few things I want to talk about. The cover itself is like an acrylic plexiglass type material, and pretty soon after I bought it, actually, I noticed there was lint on the LCD behind it. Well, it's held in by 4 screws, so it's fairly easy to open up and clean, but it's kind of a pain. You have to clean it. I mean, you shouldn't have to take this thing off, in my opinion. Most radios have like a sealed display cover, so I don't know why exactly they chose this style. I think they do it on a few other radios, and it looks kind of cool, but I don't think it's, the fact that things can get behind it, I think are a negative. That doesn't reflect on the LCD itself, which I think is actually a very good LCD. I know they use the same LCD on multiple products. It's bright, it displays things well, it's, a lot of stuff packed into that display. The LCD overall is good, just the cover, not a fan of. Moreover, I had heard early on that some people said that the LCD cover was kind of warping, and, I thought, that's interesting, until I went on vacation. I went on a Caribbean cruise, and I found out that that mine was warping also. And, talking to my brother, we were kind of tossing ideas out there. Some acrylic, I think, absorbs water, so it could have been a humidity thing. But, yeah, it kind of warped, and I'll try to get a close-up shot of this, but I haven't changed it yet. I actually did contact Elecraft, and they were, very gracious, sent me out a new cover, no problem, really no questions asked. I didn't really inquire any deeper other than to mention what happened. So, I haven't switched it out yet because I'm kind of lazy, but, yeah, it's nice that the customer support is so good about just, sending it out, no questions asked. That's great. But I'm wondering why that happened with its design. And I think they've used a similar, they've used the same kind of thing on other radios, so I'm surprised it hasn't come up before. But nonetheless, I've heard other people experience it too, where it just starts to bow out and warp. So, in terms of the entire case, my biggest gripes would be about the LCD cover itself. Let's see, and then, like I said, back on the topic of the holes, kind of, you go to the speaker. The speaker's in the back, and it sounds pretty good. It's pretty loud, actually, but it's on this back panel. So when you take the back panel off to switch out the battery, I have the internal battery in here, and the internal auto tuner. There's 2 wires that go to the board inside. I think I heard in an interview that's really the only place I could stick the speaker. So yeah, I understand. It's kind of a pain that you have to deal with those wires and whatever, but there's a good justification, in my opinion, for why that speaker has to go there. So although it's not ideal, it's better than leaving the speaker out, and the speaker is pretty good. The other big thing on the Enclosure is you've got this kickstand on the back, and I've had trouble keeping it tight down. Even when I try to tighten it down with this little thumb screw, it folds closed easily. So I don't know what's up with that. That's kind of annoying. But it's nice to have the kickstand, and I mean you don't have to use it, but it's nice to be on there. So that's really it for the Enclosure. I mean overall it's pretty good, but the LCD cover, biggest complaint. Figuring out a new system for that, I think would be good. In terms of operation, you know, I don't have any scientific numbers really to prove this. People in general have said, you know, the very good receiver, that sort of thing. It's a software-defined radio, and in my experience, I mean, it seems pretty good. So no complaints there. I mean, it does great as a receiver. In overall operation, I guess I'll kind of start from when I open it out of the box. You know, the first thing you want to do is turn it on, power it up. So you do that, start playing with buttons, and you quickly realize it's not the most user-friendly. There are a lot of functions on these buttons and clickable knobs, and you know most of them have at least 2 functions, I think. You're going to be referencing the manual a lot, so it's not really intuitive in operation. Again, you know, you have to understand that that's a compromise for a radio this small. So that's one of the things you're compromising. So just keep that in mind. You're going to be referencing the manual a lot, I think, in the beginning. I surely was. Let's see. Next thing, in terms of operation. So, you know, once you got it going, start using it, you'll find out it's pretty good. You know, you get a solid 10 watts transmit, receives good, loud speaker, headphones work well. There's an internal mic, which I haven't used a whole lot, to be honest, but it's kind of a nice feature. I purchased the external mic, which I think is about $60. One thing I wasn't too thrilled about was that it's $60 and it's not included. There's cheaper options. People have found little gooseneck PC mics, like on eBay, for a couple bucks that you just plug in and use the push-to-talk button on the radio, and they said that it works pretty well. So I haven't done that. I think if you get this radio and you're like, oh, $60 for a mic, try the $2, $3 shipped mic from China first. It might work for you, or you'll bite the bullet and buy the hand mic. But it sounds good. I mean, the hand mic's, pretty good quality, so there's that. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty, in terms of just using it as a single sideband radio, no complaints. It sounds good. It seems to work good, get good audio reports out of the mic. One thing, there's the whole lack of 160 or 6 meters. That's one of the big things that differentiates it from the KX3. And, quick notes on that. 160 being taken out, I think is no big deal. This radio is designed as a field radio. They thought of things like SOTA was a big consideration for this. You're not really using 160 for a field radio. The antennas are just too big, so not a big issue there. They did leave in 160 receive, although they note with reduced sensitivity. I tried it out a bit, specifically on the AM broadcast band, and even using a local station that booms in on basically any other AM radio, this thing was significantly weaker and noisier. So, yeah, I mean, they say it's reduced sensitivity. In my experience, it's not very good. I think, it lacks the proper filtering, so it's just the software matter that just enabled it to let you. It's better than nothing, but if you buy this radio with the intention of using it as a 160 receiver, definitely think you'll be disappointed. On the other end, the lack of 6 meters, that's really understandable because, you're adding a whole VHF portion to this radio, which would take up space. So, not surprised that it took out 6 meters. Personally, I've recently become interested more in 6 meters, so I would have liked to have it, but, not a big deal. It makes sense why it's not there. Probably my biggest gripe of this system overall has to do with power. So I purchased the internal battery from Elecraft, and it's basically 3-cell lithium-ion, uses 18650 cells. So it's around 11 volts, I think, fully charged. They say it'll support the radio up to 10 watts out, and that's kind of the only qualification. I quickly found out that it doesn't last at 10 watts very long. It rolls back to 5 pretty quickly. I think, I can't remember exactly, it's around 10.5 volts even, so the battery doesn't stick around at 11 volts too long. So their internal battery, yes, it will give you 10 watts out in some circumstances. I thought their marketing was a little deceiving. I couldn't find anywhere in the manual or anything that says the specific voltage where it cuts down the power. That would have been nice to know. So yeah, it will give you 10 watts out for a bit, but really if you're using the internal battery, think of this as a 5-watt radio. again, I think if you think it's going to 10 watts out all the time, you're going to be disappointed. Now that said, like I said, the voltage is pretty low on those batteries. So you're in the 10-ish voltage range, 10-ish volts in that range. The radio still works at 5 watts, no problem. If you're up near 13.8 or near that, you'll easily get the 10 watts out. I just didn't like how they marketed that. Again, it makes perfect sense to me why it is. I understand that they can only get so much out of certain supply voltage, but the marketing wasn't too I wasn't too pleased with that. But otherwise, the battery works well. I mean, I got no issues. It's nice and compact. It fits in there nicely. Pretty easy to take in and out, honestly. And it's just amazing to have such a tiny transceiver with everything in there. So yeah, overall, I really like it. There are some things I don't like, but most of them are justifiable compromises, in my opinion. There's a few little things I think could be improved, like the LCD display cover. But yeah, for the most part, they did a really good job on it. I think it's it's priced at the right price point also, and frankly, it's a really good replacement for the FT817 for a lot of people. For me, it definitely was. I sold my 817 to buy this radio because I didn't use, really the different features that are on the 817 that this doesn't have, I didn't use. And as a field radio, I think this fits in nicely. Frankly, this radio keeps me active in ham radio. I have a FT450D base radio, which I like a lot. It's a great radio, but the past 4 years I've lived in an apartment for college. I'm in grad school now, going to be in an apartment for at least 2 more years. So the base station radio is not really that practical. I have an antenna strung up around my apartment, and I've done other antenna type stuff in apartments before. Gets you on the air, but it's not great. This lets me just grab it and go outside and operate, basically. And I find that having this, I'm a lot more active than without it. So, big fan of this. So yeah, I mean, other than that, not a whole lot to say. It comes with a manual, printed manual, spiral bound, which is really good. Like I said, you'll be referencing it a lot, but the manual's top notch in my opinion. The construction's quite good. They really worked hard to pack a lot into this radio. And with the battery and the auto tuner in it, which are both sold separately, this thing is packed tight. Basically any void that was in the back, if you buy those 2 accessories, this thing is full. So they really packed a lot in here. And the performance is pretty good. So, yeah, all in all, I mean, I really do like it. It's a great little radio. I think you'll be pleased with it if you buy it. In my opinion, this is a great second radio. If you have a good HF mobile or HF base station, this is a good radio if you want to get out and about. Pair this with a decent HT, and you got a great little portable station. So, yeah, thumbs up on this radio in general. And let me know if you have any questions. Put them down below. Like this, or give a thumbs up if you like this video, and subscribe, and let me know what else you guys want to see. That's it. So, 73.